What up?
What's up, Real Talk Live members?
What's going on with y'all? Just trying to send these out here.
Tracy, what's up?
Taking it easy. Naja, hello. Tracy, hello. Hello, hello.
What's up? What's up, Trace?
How y'all doing? How y'all doing?
Yo,
Kristen, hello.
Christian, hello.
Hey, y'all. Hey,
Naja.
y'all.
What's up?
Is that how you say it? Hey,
What's
y'all.
going on?
Hey, y'all.
Yeah.
We in here. Don't mind us
What-
being on our phones and stuff for a second.
Yeah, just trying to send out some of these things real quick.
Hey, Tempest. So we got a hey, y'all, a and a hey.
What's up, Tempest?
Hey.
Yo, I be feeling like we be on the live anyway, man, with sometime with all of the stuff back and forth and all the articles, man, trying to keep up reading with all of the articles and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't
Absolutely.
even keep up with that secondary chat. Every time I
Yeah,
be
that's
out.
it. If you want to join the secondary chat, just you know, drop us a little message. You know, put chat in the box, man. We'll add you. We have a whole family of folk that just be up in there, and we're well informed in there. I'll say it like that. You know, all kinds of stuff. You know,
So
and
what's
it
been
gets
going on with
community. Man, I had a birthday Monday.
you? Oh,
Yeah,
shit. I saw that
yeah,
late.
that's right.
Related, man.
Thank you guys. Thank you. I had a birthday, so I turned, you know, I look up, you know,
How you feel?
older.
Older or
He
wiser?
said say distinguished. He said start saying distinguished.
What's up, Leo?
Bridgewater popped in. What up, man? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yo, what's going
yeah.
on? Bridgewater, if you want to join at some point, man, we're gonna be dealing with these guns tonight and gun violence.
Yeah.
So
And
definitely.
his thing is the cannabis, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's listed.
I remember definitely. We was actually just believe it or not, we was just having. I was just reading this thing, man. They said that they was talking about the trucking industry as it relates to the cannabis. That they sent the letter off to like Buttigieg to have the DOT stop testing for marijuana as part of the CDL because they were saying they were talking about how many truckers, how when they talk about a shortage in the supply chain and everything, how many truckers have lost their ability to drive because of testing positive for marijuana, and they were saying that they're legally using marijuana within their home states, but then they're being tested sometimes 2-3 weeks after the fact, and then they're losing their jobs, and then it's a hard process, man, to try to get that CDL back, and in the federal government still listing marijuana as a Schedule One narcotic. So I was looking up like what would to be listed as a Schedule One narcotic, it has to be basically something that they feel is highly abused, and it has to have like no medical value. And I'm like, clearly there's the science is there that the marijuana has medicinal value. You know what I'm saying? And
Oh, that was my next question. I'm sorry. He just put. I was going to ask you what was the same system. He put 30 days. Sorry.
yeah, I mean, it stays in, and I mean, it's dependent, but the bottom line is you can test a truck driver or anybody for marijuana, and they can test positive for marijuana, even though they're clearly not under the influence of the marijuana. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's just like, and it's a federal requirement that anybody that holds a CDL license has to be uh, tested. So, I have a CDL license, and my CDL license required me to submit to urinalysis, periodic random urinalysis. So I'm not tested. And the crazy part about it is I don't drive. My job has I don't drive at all. I don't use my CDL license at all. I don't drive at my job. I don't drive for my job. I don't have a side gig using my CDL license. But my job requires me to have a CDL license strictly so that they can urine test under the federal guidelines, So, and that's the sole purpose of me having a CDL. So go figure that a dude that doesn't even have a driving job as a job requirement has to maintain a CDL license. So I got a CDL license about 7 years ago that I never use. I have not driven a CDL vehicle to show you how crazy it is. Not for my job or on the side. I have not driven a vehicle that required a CDL license since the day I took my road test on a CDL vehicle, and I still got to get urine tested. So, but you know what they need? They need a device, and this is part of the problem. Is they need something that can pinpoint like how a breathalyzer does, like, yo, you're under the influence now versus it's in your system. You know what I'm saying? And they can't really do that. And you can't really base it off of concentration because if you're a daily weed smoker, your concentration is going to build up.
Well, same thing goes for alcohol, technically, right?
Huh?
The same will go for alcohol, right?
Well, see, the test for alcohol, they're not testing they're testing that shows that your blood alcohol level is that amount right now. You understand what I'm saying?
No, but you meant like a tolerance or a buildup, like somebody who
no. So I'm saying like with a weed test, you can test that weed is in a person's system. They don't. But what I'm saying is you would need a test. Now, I read somewhere they got one that can narrow it down to like a 6 to 24 hour period. But the bottom line is I could smoke marijuana at 2 o'clock in the morning and I could drive at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and not be high from the effects of the marijuana I smoked 10 hours ago. You know what I'm saying?
And can marijuana at all impair you?
Huh?
Can marijuana at all impair you in your judgment?
Oh, I believe 100% if you under the influence of marijuana and you're operating machinery or you're driving at the time that you're under the influence, you can definitely be impaired because your judgment sometimes is slower, sometimes even with distance. I've driven under the influence of marijuana before, and there's times I felt like I couldn't catch the car in front of me no matter how fast I was going. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, damn, it feel like I'm not going fast enough. Like I can't catch the car in front of me. Yo, you can bug. I'm not saying bug out like that, but I'm saying I'm not going to sit here and say that marijuana cannot alter your judgment if you're under the influence at the time that you're operating machinery or whatever. The problem is the test doesn't show whether you're actually under the influence at that moment when you're driving. It just shows that you have it in your system. Now, you could have it in your system for 25 days ago, which you clearly aren't under the influence while you're doing none of these things. That's the problem. And you can't just really base it off of concentration because if you're a daily marijuana smoker, your urine is never going to be clean. You're always going to have it in your system. You smoke every day. You know what I'm saying? So it's always going to be in your system.
I mean, I like your response. And the reason I say that is because I know with our trucks, I mean, if you got 35, 40,000 pounds on that road, you know what I mean? With those trucks, man, it's you got to be on point. And most of the drivers, they couldn't, well, I'm not gonna say most, a lot of the drivers couldn't pass the test, or they knew how to hide it in their systems and stuff like that when they were going. Well, pardon me, I can't say that, man, because I don't want anything to come across with my company, because we still have it, but it has been said that at times they knew how to hide it and stuff like that. But I was always concerned, and I told my drivers straight up, like, you can't be high. You know what I mean? If that trooper pulls you over or if they send you to go, get that test up and it comes back, we're gonna find you and or you will lose your job. And it's not because I wanted to punish people. That wasn't it. But some of the drivers we had, I had one driver. He took the he took the truck, disconnected it from the trailer, and disappeared for like hold on one second. It disappeared for like um and disappeared for like 2 weeks.
2 weeks? I thought you were gonna say a few hours or something.
Nah, because you got to remember, at first we thought he was on route, so we could see the truck. We saw what he was doing, so he was making his runs, but he wasn't making his runs. So he would make his runs, disconnect. He was going around, and it wasn't 2 weeks. It was about a week. It was about 9 days, and he was, it turns out he was getting high. He ended up binging. He had a drug problem that came back. We'll say it like that. You know what I mean? When he went through all of his testing and everything worked out fine. And then he bugged out. It got to the point where I called him one day. I was like, dude, I could have sent the cops to get the truck like every day this week. You know what I mean? Because we could see the truck. We could see when it's cut on. We could see when it's idling. And I just said, man, go on and put the keys in the truck, man. So, but I also didn't want him to be violated because he did have a parole officer. So that's a whole other discussion. Yeah. But, yeah. We got Leo Bridgewater over here.
What up, King Cannabis?
Man, What up, Leo?
Y'all say it like my wife says it to me. You know what I'm saying? and she likes giving me a hard time. What's good, fellas? Falcon,
yeah, what's good, man?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. It's good to see you.
What's up,
good
bro?
To see y'all, man. I feel like a little bit of butter spread over too much toast.
Yeah.
What you mean, man? What's up?
It's just the ripping and running around, man. I realized this past weekend I just don't bounce back like I used to. Me and my wife went to I had to do an event at the first ever cannabis event at the VA hospital in Honolulu last and we were there for a little over a week and a half, and my body is still 6 hours behind.
Yeah.
So it's like that, you got to try to catch up, and what hurts the most is that when I came back, I had to do a whole lot of ripping and running. I had to go up to Massachusetts, then down to Maryland. So I never really got an opportunity to really just, like take it easy, sit down for a minute. And so this is the, like I'm in that period where I'm just almost there. I'm just almost there.
I'm gonna ask you a question.
Yeah.
Are you over 40?
47.
I knew. But the point is, it's going to slowly start doing that to you a little bit more and more until you finally say, you know what, let me chill out and take it.
My wife been on me.
He's on the road.
Yeah. My wife is like, yo, you're getting old, right? And I'm just like, but it's okay though. I'm enjoying it though. You know what
exactly.
I mean? And on top of that, to be quite honest with you, it's like nowadays, if I'm going to be going through this right now, like this type of stuff, it needs to be worth it. And so the work was worth it. You know what I'm saying? So, particularly at this stage in my career with cannabis, it's more so about the work than it is about anything else. I mean, don't get me wrong, the money is nice, real nice, but if you chase the work, the money comes with it. So it's just, right now making this stuff happen and trying to bring forth some of the changes. I was listening to some of the things you guys were saying, and, you were spot on with a few things. Yes, it does. Cannabis does stay in your system. It can stay in your system for 30 days, but it depends on the individual. So if you're someone who's never smoked before and you consume cannabis or a joint, it's not going to be in your system for more than a week or like 10 days. You see what I'm saying? So you just have to know your body. Can cannabis impair? Absolutely. But at the same time, it depends on the individual because cannabis can also enhance as well. This is medicine, and you have to understand, guys, all consumption when it comes to cannabis is medicinal, whether people realize it or not. If you talk to folks,
even smoking it,
what you're talking about is you're talking about a delivery platform. You see
okay.
because smoking is a delivery platform.
Okay.
Edibles is a delivery platform.
Okay.
Lingual, under the tongue, is a delivery platform. Epidermal, through your skin, is a delivery platform. You don't have to always smoke. You see what I'm saying? Just different ways. But here's something for you guys to think on. The most infuriating thing about this entire journey for me and in my career is that literally, 2% of the plant takes up 98% of the conversation. And, Devron, you've heard me say this before. There's a reason why our people, black people, there's a reason why we are not time appropriate in our fundamental understanding of this plant or this industry. And the reason for that is because the number one hardest group of people to talk to about this is black church people. See, back in the day, nowadays, today, most people don't realize black church people are way more conservative than what you would find on Fox News when it comes to this stuff here and a myriad of other things. And so what I'm saying to you is not brand new news in my industry, in my tribe. Everyone knows that. And the interesting thing is that white folks in this industry know that shit too. So it's real, and it's actually shown. You used to not be able to say this, but it is, the reason why we as a people are not in time appropriate is because, traditionally the black church is looked upon as the gatekeepers to the African American community. And so the reluctance of the black church to, embrace this and fully understand and to help right a mighty wrong is significant. I'm only saying this to you because, look, fellas, where I live at in New Jersey, we were averaging 32,000 a year, 32,000 arrests a year for low-level, non-violent minor possession of cannabis. New Jersey has the largest racial disparity of incarcerated citizens in the country. Gentlemen, we beat out California years ago. And in New Jersey, and we're just talking about cannabis, but they spend about $145 million a year prosecuting for this. The private prison industry in New Jersey ranks cannabis inmates as their favorite inmate because we're least likely to be violent. And so to get to where we are today, and listen, gentlemen, we've been averaging those numbers since the 90s. So it's exploded. It's a thing here in New Jersey. When you look at the rate of use of force among police officers, people who look like us, we make up 80% of that. Just like we make up 80% of arrests for nonviolent minor possession of cannabis. So the intentional targeting and tormenting people and communities of color in New Jersey, that's a thing here, a real thing. A lot of those people that y'all saw that were climbing up all of the Trumpanzees on January 6th, remember that? At the Capitol building? Yeah, a lot of those people, most people don't realize it, but a lot of those people came from New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. See, New Jersey, where I live at, we have the most white nationalist organizations in the country. They're here. Okay, the dude with the Confederate flag that was in Nancy Pelosi's office and everything like that. Yo, Dad, that dude was from New York, bruh. You know what I'm saying? Most people don't like it's real up here. It's a thing. And the way this stuff plays out. Now, I'll give you this much too. In New Jersey, you know what else is a thing here? Cops kill themselves here a lot. We have a steroid problem amongst police where I live at. So when you think about the different camera lenses by which these things are played out, so when it's the reason why we have a lot of the laws that we have, particularly when it comes to cannabis. We got automatic record expungement. Got about almost 500,000 brothers and sisters got their records expunged in the last year and a half since we got that done. We also have it where we're the first state in the country to make it so that all those people who got locked up for weed and everything, if they were to apply for a license, they get pushed to the front of the line now. Unheard of in any other state. But that's what we did. We got that shit done. So it's what I call the righting of a mighty wrong. And so the first thing we have to do is we got to make sure you take care of what's going on in your backyard. And so there's a lot of economic incentive to make this happen, because when you talk about cannabis legalization, we're not just talking about the change, facilitating a cultural shift in how we view the plant. We're also talking about facilitating massive transfer of wealth. Logistically, it almost can't be quantified. Guys, this industry is in such a baby stage, bro. We ain't even got an industry standard unit of measurement yet. You know what I'm saying? But you know what we still talking about? We still talking about, people being locked up, if it's a gateway drug, how long it's in your system and everything like that. Look, it's not even about the concentrations. If you're really about this life, then the thing that really gets you high, what you need to be paying attention to, is not the concentration of THC. It's the terpene profile for whatever strain you're consuming at the time that you're consuming it. That's the way it works. It's the science behind it. If this was a television show, I'm in season 12, episode 4. A lot of people are in season 1, episode 6. Spoiler alert, it's not a gateway drug. That's the season 1 finale. We haven't talked that way in years. So whenever I hear someone say to me, gateway drug, I already know I know more than you. Someone who says gateway drug, that's the same as someone who still calls black people colored. We ain't talked that way.
That's somebody reminiscing on their 8th grade health class, man.
They're using old terms.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you something, Leo.
Absolutely.
Dev, can I just have?
Sure, absolutely, Mike. Yeah, go ahead, Mike. What you have, Mike?
I just want to have get into your question, but I just want to have Leo just explain again what his involvement is in the cannabis industry, so everyone know. And then please, dive right in. I didn't cut you off, but I just want
to. It's a lot. So I'll give you the most recent. Like the most recent thing was like I said, I did the thing at the VA. But I also. I was just voted High Times Magazine's most influential person for 2021. In the top 100. So I made that list. I'm also the national director of Veterans Outreach with Minorities for Medical Marijuana and co-owner of Collective 60 New Jersey. We're cultivation and processing company with indoor and outdoor operations in New Jersey. Also looking at Massachusetts, Michigan, and so forth. So my involvement in the cannabis industry is multifaceted, from advocate and activist to entrepreneur. So it's been growing and growing and growing, and got a lot more things happening too. Stay tuned. But yeah,
you got to mention Forbes.
Huh?
You forgot to mention Forbes.
Yeah. Forbes, man. Forbes, Yahoo Finance had me ranked like the number 6 most influential black man in cannabis at one point. Just did a whole lot of stuff, but talk to my kids. My 15-year-old still thinks I'm corny, and my 60-year-old talks to me like I'm small. So none of that shit matters. They don't care. I swear to God.
Oh, you silly man.
It's true, but it's true,
How close do you think it's to full legalization in America, though?
Let me hold that question. Write that down, because I have a question for him based on what he last said.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you don't mind, Charles. My
question
to you, Leo, is, and I heard everything you said. I'm not against or for. You know me. I'm so nebulous in this whole world. And you're absolutely right about the business side of things. And before we go on to the gun violence, I really would like you to discuss some of the business things. I know that's Charles's like bright light also. You know what I mean? But when you say that cannabis isn't a gateway drug, my only question to you is, does it have addictive properties?
Does it have addictive properties?
Yeah, is it addictive?
No, can it be abused? Absolutely. Yes, it can. But again, it depends on the individual.
That part.
Yeah, it depends on the individual. Because here's the thing, Devron. my body processes food at a much different rate and time than yours.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. So I cannot give. So what goes for me doesn't go for you.
Exactly.
So you can't give broad. I can't make broad statements about it based on you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Tell you
So,
is how you would need to learn your body.
But the reason I ask that is because I'm from the school of thought that any drug can be a gateway drug. That's just me. And just like you just said, people's bodies react differently to different things. And of course, if they abuse something, it can go. So I'm always sort of like, when people go, it's just 100% not a gateway drug. I'm like, I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know. Personally, I don't know.
I do know. That is not true,
Okay.
Devron. That's
okay.
That was like the fact that you think that, and the fact that you have some sort of hesitation.
No, the fact that I'm saying that for you to say 100%. See what I'm doing? So you're saying 100%, and I'm saying,
well,
how
like,
can we
all right,
measure 100%?
Let me ask you something.
Sure.
Because this was interesting. I was talking with a state senator about this.
Okay.
And they say, like, I know where a person is at based on what category you put this. For instance, cannabis is still thought as drugs.
Right.
Wrong. It's not.
No, but I mean, I do see it as a drug because I do remember the old school cannabis, and nobody smoking the old school cannabis. Everybody smoking the new. Well, you might be smoking old school cannabis because you've got access to things that a lot of people probably don't. But a lot of people are smoking roach spray, but they're calling it cannabis.
No, that's an ill practice, and you're right. But that's not the way. That's not the correct way to consume cannabis. That's a perverted manner of what you're talking about.
Me and you on the same page there. I know, but you see, I'm expanding the conversation only because.
So here's the legal answer to the legal result to what you're saying in terms of, like, for my state.
Yes, sir.
Every one of those concerns of yours, you will find in the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission's guidelines for pesticides and stuff that are allowable. You know what I'm saying? So when you're so when you walk into a legal dispensary in New Jersey, everything, those concerns you just listed, that's not what you're going to have to worry about when you walk in there. That is not a concern.
We are 100% here.
Based off of the way the law was written that allows for a particular type of fertilizer or pesticide or whatever. And it's very, very stringent. So and what you are getting is when you say old school versus new school. No, that's just talk. We didn't have the science back then. We have the science now.
Yeah, but my brother, and I'm following you. Because you are one of my primary educators in this world. You already know that. You know what I mean? Us talking now is nothing new. All of us have talked before, but when I consider things, I look at it being the child of a drug addict. You know what I mean? That's all it boils down to. My mother had issues. You know what I'm saying? It's documented, as they say. But she was the one that, like, in 1991 or 92, that made me realize that there was a difference. And what I mean by that is, one day she came out in front of the building, and we in the hood, 51, we chilling, and some of the dudes was out there smoking. And my mother walked by and was like, "That ain't weed," and she just kept walking. And now they smoking. They laughed at her. And I thought it was funny too, because I'm like, well, if it's not weed, then what are we smelling? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't smoke, so to me it smells like weed. You know what I mean?
Right.
It smells like what I remember growing up in and out, of what you smell. But then when she came back, they challenged her. And my mother said one thing that just bugged me out. And it took the school of thought for me to say, okay, well, maybe there's something else that's different. So I'm going to say what that is. But so when you just mentioned what happens in the dispensaries, I'm thinking the dispensaries are now the new boutique version of what used to happen in the streets. The old school drug dealers, in theory, The government is running that stuff now. That's not. You don't have the old school drug dealers that was doing what they was doing before in the magnitude because it's being legalized, it's being taxed. So now something that had a street value, no different than when we used to prepare pork, and when they wouldn't eat lobster, they used to feed lobster and pork to the prisoners, and all of a sudden it becomes a delicacy. I'm seeing the same exact thing start to happen, and the reason I wanted to sort of separate what you know, because you travel the world, you and Charles all over the damn world.
Right.
And he does it for recreation. You do it for work and recreation, plus you're military. So
Right.
I'm going to say what my mother said that just opened my mind up to the fact that maybe there was variables. And so when we talk about the addictive properties of it, let me tell you what my mother said. My mother said they was like laughing at her. And, you know, everybody knew my mother had a drug problem. My mother said, you know, y'all sit up here all day smoking blunts. And basically it's blunt after blunt after blunt. She said when we would smoke weed, because she didn't smoke weed at that time. She was dealing with other drugs. She said we could smoke one joint and be high. And be high pretty much, she just laughingly said all day. And I thought about what she said. It was really deep to me because she was right. A lot of these dudes sitting up there, they're going. And her thing was like back in the day, we would have that one little joint and be good. So that was what opened up my mind to it. And then when I read some of what Wesley Muhammad had written, you know, that's what sort of made me understand, to your point, that whatever it is that's being regulated is all of the different things that might have been out there before. When we say something's not addictive, it's sort of like a blanket statement. For what you're doing, that might not be addictive. But for the different variables that might have been there before that were not regulated, that people were getting high off of, it's sort of hard to say that it's not addictive when that's not even the same thing that you guys are technically smoking.
Well, it doesn't become addictive until a person with addictive traits and personality gets a hold of it. So is it the cannabis or is it the person? Yeah, and then again, because let's do it like this.
I think that's more probability if you have an addicted personality.
I can simplify it for you real quick.
Yes, sir.
In your mind, and all three of you, just take a guess. You know, how many people you think died from crack?
That died from crack? I mean, that's a great question. I don't know. But I can tell you this. I'm gonna tell you this. If they didn't necessarily die from the inhalation of crack, some of the dumb shit that they did while being on crack.
Right. Now, how many people have actually died from cocaine?
Oh, I'm quite sure many people have died.
Yeah. Now, how many people have actually died from consuming cannabis?
That's a great question. I don't have an answer for that, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if something that you're taking, you have to take it over and over again to maintain whatever. Yeah, okay.
I understand that, but
yes, sir.
It's not about how high. When you're going into a dispensary, and this is where the education part comes in, it's never about how high. It's what high. And this is why you go into a dispensary and you have a conversation with a bud tender, a professional. We're going to talk about what are you addressing, and every single one of those instances when you were talking from our childhood on, you know, because I can remember my mom and them separating the seeds and shit like that. You know, my mom called it herbs. You know what I'm saying? You know, that's I remember. You know, and I remember Branson's triangle bag. I was supposed to. You know what I'm saying? So
easy water.
But the thing about it is that back then we weren't saying things like sativa, indica, or cultivar.
We weren't saying things like what? I'm sorry, you might.
Sativa and indica or cultivar. Those are terms that were unknown to us back then. You know, which is why I said today you have the science behind it.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff that we are doing today that we didn't have. I'm surprised we made it this far.
Yo, you know what, Leo? Something you just said. Something you just said, Leo. Actually, I didn't even think about it until you just said it. So, I've been in a dispensary. I've been in dispensaries in Colorado. That was the first time I've ever went in a dispensary. I've been in them out in California, out in Michigan, and Yo, it's bugged out. Like I didn't even think about that until you just said that. It really wasn't about how high. It was
It's what
about
high.
what high.
Yep.
And it was crazy because the first time when I went to the first one, like I said, I ever went, and the first dispensary I ever went in was in Denver, Colorado, and it was crazy because I actually walked out of there. I didn't even buy anything, but I walked out of there like, yo, this girl, and it was crazy because it was like about a 22-year-old white girl I was talking to, and I was
Uh-huh.
like, yo, I said, man, this girl just explained weed to me in a way I never even looked at marijuana. You know what I'm saying? And yo, it was crazy. And the next time when I went into one, I went in California, yo, no line kid, they had the iPad set up
Yeah.
where you could research the type of marijuana you was buying and exactly what you're saying. It was never about which one got you more high. It was about which one worked on like what you were trying to achieve, like the relaxation of this.
Correct.
If you was dealing with
Correct.
anxiety, it always,
Correct.
and that goes to your point earlier where you were saying it's always medicinal because no matter what strand they had up there, when you looked at the iPad, it always spoke to what condition it helped you with, not
Correct.
how high it could get you. And you know, and it's crazy. I never even thought about that. I never even thought that I was actually learning that, so to speak,
Yeah, they all
until you
have.
just pointed it out right now.
But question: if you never thought about that, has that always been the case, or is that like becoming more so the case now
How high?
with the legal? I'm saying was no. Well, what kind of high, right? So if you
Yeah.
just said she just brought it to you in a way I never really looked at it, I'm sure people all along were looking for a particular high, but maybe the categories weren't as defined and stuff as they are now. So
No,
were
definitely.
Oh, even from back in the 70s and the 60s, the 30s, you could look at the 20s, you know, all the jazz musicians and everything. When you listen to the way they talk about cannabis and the way and how it made them feel, if you can get past your own personal biases and really analyze what they're saying, they all sound like patients. They're
Yeah,
all meditating. Even if you listen to some of the old songs and stuff like that, take the
yeah,
tune away and listen, like really, really listen beyond the tune, and you'll hear a patient talking. There, everybody like, look, bro, they use this to help wean people off of heroin in Arizona, and in states that have comprehensive medical cannabis programs, they're seeing somewhere in upwards of a 25% reduction in the number of opioid abuse and addiction incidences. And you know what else they're seeing too, Dad? They're seeing upwards of a 25% reduction in the number of scripts being written for those opioids. Now, who's that bad news for? In this game,
big farm, big farm.
see, in this game, we're messing with three types of money. Okay. The first type is old money. That would be the pharmaceutical industry. And in New Jersey, they've been operating for generations. The second type is long money. That would be the alcohol industry, fellas. And they've been operating for generations as well. And the third type of money is big money. That would be the prison industrial complex, which has been thriving. Now, to get to where we are right now, especially in my state, you know what I'm saying, it didn't happen by happenstance. This took time. And if you guys understand, particularly when we're talking about from a macro and micro economics level and everything like that, you had to have think about it, a lot of careers were built off of this. A lot of reputations were built off of this being illegal. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and I say this all quite often, you know, because I love being the reason why you don't give the veteran the microphone, because I'm so comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'll just say this shit. But I'll tell these legislators, like, look, it's like we got to get the state off of this titty and put them on this titty because this one is full. You know what I'm saying? But the thing about it is that to, the people whose watch this happened on, they're still in the state house. They're still in the Capitol building. One of them's even in the White House. So again, we have to reverse a lot of years and years of propaganda. If you look at the LaGuardia report, you know, the former governor of New York, so he was actually was commissioned to actually have a study on this, you know, and guess what the conclusions was, bruh? That I don't think that the conclusion was that they didn't think that this should be made illegal. In fact, they encouraged the government to actually do studies. You know what I'm saying? So 66350507. That is the patent number to CBD, which we all own because the federal government bought the patent, issued itself the patent on cannabis, on CBD back in the 90s, y'all. So it's not like this is, the research is there. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you look at countries like Israel and so forth, who allows for this to happen on a federal level. They got think tanks with this, bro. They down to genetics. You know what I'm saying? You want to know what the rest of the world is thinking right now? You know what they're doing? Right now, the establishing and cultivation of international trade routes is what's going on. That's what's happening right now. You know what I'm saying? We're talking genetics and all that stuff, you know, access to IP, think tanks that are built around not just this. And guess what, y'all? You want to know what the long money is going to be? Money is not in cannabis. The long money is in industrial hemp. That's $1 trillion industry. You know what I'm saying? But you know what? You know, we still talking about, you know.
I mean, it's like this, bro. Like, we all gonna have our perceptions, you know. And for me, you know what I mean. And there's a question that was asked earlier. If you could take a look at it, Tia Harrell, it's up there. But I want to say this: we're all gonna have our perceptions, and it's not just necessarily the propaganda. It's also our life experiences that we're working through.
Absolutely.
You know.
Well, now you're talking about the illegality of the plant.
Well. This is what I want to say. I grew up around a lot of people who were not using marijuana for medicinal purposes. They were using it for recreational purposes.
Oh, no. Listen. They were using it for medicinal, just didn't know it. Trust me, bro. Look, is alcohol an adult beverage or a recreational beverage?
Bro, I can't personally, I can't co-sign that. Now, what I'll say is I understand the school of thought, but my experiences, my personal experiences, are showing me something completely different. But to your point, I never thought it should be illegal. You know what I mean? Because I understood the concept of the plant and the medicinal value of it very early, very young. You know what I mean? Very, you know, you grow up around it, you sort of have that duality there. But what pisses me off, and where my thinking is, and sometimes when we're having some of our business calls and we're all on these calls with all these powerful people and including yourself in this industry, you know, my whole thing is really the redemptive value of all that they took from us, as you mentioned, as far as the wealth and as far as the time that they took from us. Because all of these lawyers and doctors that left their practices to go open up those dispensaries 10, 15, 20 years ago that are multimillionaires right now, everybody's laughing. And to your point, some of the conversation, it might be a little narrow, but we have to sort of have, I'm gonna say it to you this way. You know enough about this world where you can educate a novice to somebody who knows just as much as you do, and y'all could probably have this powwow. It's not going to change the fact that there's been a lot of trauma connected with drugs, period. Hear me out. So if somebody's sitting up there and they smoking weed, that's one thing. But I know brothers that die, like from where I'm sitting right now, literally 4 miles down the road, brothers that got murdered, 2 of them, back in the 90s, because they were, you know, they were selling their weed and doing what they were doing. At the time, it was just the drug trade. And because of the illegality of it and because of the street culture, they lost their lives. So in theory, this is all theory, if it was legal or if they were able to have the same route that some of these doctors, lawyers, and all, and I single them out because I know of some of them that left their practices.
Mhm.
They're crazy paid. But meanwhile, I had family members that got locked up for weed and was facing all kinds of time. I was visiting family members in Sing Sing, Comstock, all throughout New York that was locked up for weed, and they can't get their time back. You know, so there has to be like that fine line between education, learning, a cultural shift, but also somehow having a modern redemptive value to give up, like the things that you've been fighting for years, the things that you do for vets, and the things that you're doing to get those charges overturned, all of that. But they're gonna have to give up some of that money. They're gonna have to give up a lot because we lost a lot.
Oh, so the legal answer, or the legal response to that is in New Jersey, 70% of sales tax goes to cities being impact zones.
Okay.
And 30% actually goes to the police for to be invested into unproven science called drug recognition experts. Also in New Jersey, we have a cultivation excise tax, and it's capped that it's on a rolling basis. So as the market value of the price of a pound of weed goes down, the cultivation tax goes up, and it caps at $65 per ounce. Now, 100% of that goes to New Jersey's social equity program. And because we did this through ballot referendum, which I do not suggest anyone does, any other state does moving forward, but one of the good parts about having done so is that our social equity canvas is completely blank, which means we can do whatever the hell we want when it comes to a social equity program. And some of the things that are coming out is that, for instance, a lot of the folks who are what we call legacy, but we all know them as black market, the black market dealers, all the guys who were, who built up the markets in the neighborhoods and stuff like that. There will be a license for them. Part of the hookup in getting this done, particularly here in New Jersey, is that when the applications dropped, the only thing that they asked for is 1 year of taxes. So, because there's no way of getting around it, you got to have taxes, but they only ask for your 2021 taxes this go around. So, if you're someone who is serious about getting in the industry, as moving from the dark to the light to legit, these are the things that you're going to have to go through. Because in all honesty, to become an already activated entity, it's going to take about a year. So that's and there's so many more things that we're still in the beginning stages of rolling things out. But these are the things that I know I can speak to now.
Right.
There are many things to address everything you just said, Devron. Those things are currently being rolled out right now. And to answer Tia Harrell's question.
Yeah, can you get Tia and also Christina's in one swoop, and then we're going to segue into the guns.
Yeah, because I got something to say about that too. But
I got one question too.
Tia's question: do people overdose on cannabis? If anyone has overdosed on cannabis, I'd really like to meet that person. I'm not saying it's not that it's impossible to overdose. You can overdose. It would take over 1,200 1 gram joints so it would take something like 1,000 of these in order to get to overdosing. So you probably never met anyone who's overdosed on cannabis. Now, if you met someone who was like, yo, I'm high as hell and I feel like I'm going to die, just give them CBD and do it lingual, because what it is that your high is based upon what's happening with your high is you have what is called CB1 and CB2 receptors. We all do. THC has taken up most of your CB1 receptors. So if you take, I think I overdosed. I took an edible after 20 years and got sick as a dog. No, you didn't overdose, Christina. You just you just overdid it, and you had someone didn't show you how to do edibles, and that's a terrible thing. I'm sorry that happened, but you gotta go slow, small and slow with edibles, y'all. Because the thing about doing edibles is that is the strongest way to get high from consuming cannabis. And it lasts the longest because it is actually passing through your small intestine. So a lot of people consume too much and it takes a couple of days to come down. But that's not overdosing. You just got to ride the wave. That's all. And I'm a big girl. Only took 10 milligrams. That doesn't mean anything. It's all up here in your brain. It's just the way your body processed, girl. It went into your bloodstream. So that's how that happens. Instead of blocking them from being involved in the record. No, and that is correct, Christina. And that is not actually it is the exact opposite, which is what we fought for here in the state of New Jersey. So all of those people who were locked up for this, actually, if they apply, go straight to the front of the line. And you don't have to have your record expunged at the time that you actually get your drop your application. The other thing that was also helpful with this, Devron, is that like in other states, when you actually apply for a cannabis license, be it for adult use or for medicinal, a lot of times the application can cost like between $50,000 and $20,000. Okay, New Jersey made it so that it's somewhere between $100 and no more than $2,000, depending on what license class. So they really reduced it big time for everybody, and then that's it. So yeah, so that's the answer to that. And to your other question, Deborah, I see this becoming legal in the next couple of years. Particularly when it comes to this is a midterm year. So I could see somebody trying to use this as some sort of campaign fodder or what have you. If not, then definitely during the presidential elections. So I do see that this is, and then also when it comes to say banking, all those things. Once you start seeing that happen, then it's
because didn't the federal didn't they lift the restrictions of the banks being able to deal with the marijuana companies and stuff?
No, not yet. But the fact of the matter is that the chatter about all of that has picked up significantly.
Yeah,
which means that it's going to happen. There are places where you do have some, like here in New Jersey, we just passed the law that will not penalize financial institutions with state penal by the state for doing businesses with cannabis businesses. So the state of New Jersey is not going to penalize any banks or anything for doing business with people like us.
Yeah.
Now federally, they don't even like talking about it.
Yeah. That's what I was. But see, because with the election and everything, a more supposedly
Democrat.
liberal coming in with the Congress and the House, the Senate, the president, and with Buttigieg, however he pronounces his last name. Yeah, with being the head of the DOT, they were trying to get the marijuana. If not, not the thing. They was trying to get the marijuana removed from being one of the things that they test with, and they thought that was gonna kind of pick up a little bit more because he campaigned on legalization of cannabis.
Right. Interestingly,
you know what I'm saying?
Interestingly enough, I'm actually one of the named plaintiffs in the lawsuit against the Department of Justice when Jeff Sessions was head of the DOJ, and we were suing to have cannabis completely removed as a Schedule I drug.
Yeah.
In order for anything to be listed as a Schedule I drug, Devron, you gotta hit on 3 markers, not 2 out of the 3, not 1 out of 3. You literally have to hit all 3. 1, it has to have 0 medicinal value.
Mm-hmm.
2, it has to be highly addictive. And 3, you must need a medical professional in order to administer it. Those are the 3 guidelines that you would need in order for something to be a Schedule 1 drug. So technically, cannabis is ranked higher than crack, heroin, and cocaine, I believe. You know what I'm saying? But cannabis is considered, according to the scheduled list of drugs. Now, here's the thing about these oxymoronic politics and whatnot.
And when you finish, Mike got a question for you. I just want to say, I'm listening.
Here's the thing, it can't have any medicinal value, but yet states have medical marijuana programs.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You have to go back to when Richard Nixon was in office, because here's the thing, y'all. Truth be told, this is how it really was supposed to be. We weren't supposed to get weed. We were only supposed to get heroin. The hippies were supposed to get weed. You understand what I'm saying? We were only supposed to be, black people and heroin was supposed to be synonymous with each other, and cannabis and hippies were supposed to be synonymous with each other. And the reason why is because President Nixon needed a reason to bust up the Black Panther Party meetings and all of the hippie meetings, because they were his staunchest opponents during the Vietnam War stuff. So they knew exactly. Now how it is we ended up with all of it, that's a whole nother conversation for another night. But if you go back and look at the history books, if you do the research, you will see that actually, and mind you, the commission that President Nixon had formed to get to do the research on this, they came back with the recommendation that we not make this federally illegal, and that we actually study it for research purposes, because there is some medicinal value. And he took the report and threw it in the garbage. So again, y'all gotta we really gotta do our due diligence and take a look back. There is a reason why Devron thinks, talks, and sounds the way that he sounds, and has had the experiences that he has had. It's all there's literally a historical reference that would explain how you got to where you got to. And me and him, all of us came up. Y'all remember Nancy Reagan and that Just Say No shit? Remember all that and everything? Yeah, that was all a part of it too. You know what I'm saying? Like this, the theory, the way they were conspiring on all of us back then, and the way it's actually played out now. It's the reason why, as a whole, when I began talking, was we are not time appropriate in our fundamental understanding of this plant or this industry.
And Mike,
yeah,
I think after this question, we're going to segue to the gun talk before we close out this evening.
No, I think I heard you right before when you were talking about Devron, and you said marijuana isn't going to be like the main thing. You said hemp is going to be the
industrial hemp.
Industrial hemp.
Just can you explain that? Because I know I'm not up on that. Like what's that about?
Industrial hemp is part of the reason why I say 2% of this plant takes up 98% of the conversation.
Right.
If you look at what industrial hemp can do,
it's amazing.
Literally, we can literally redo the hood. We can say everybody can have big businesses. We can build houses that are stronger than steel. Okay, that are antimicrobial and fireproof.
Facts.
These are all things that are happening right now when it comes to industrial hemp. And I just gave you a small taste.
That in actuality it was the fight. If I'm correct, with the that Farmers Act that allowed the CBD and the under 3% of the THC to go through.
My iPad's at 1%, so if I cut off, I'm gonna jump right back in. I'm trying to pull it up on my phone. I'm sorry, fellas. I didn't realize.
But that's what, like, I think that the farmers had protested about being able to grow the plant and grow for the hemp value of it, and they passed some like Farmers Act, which is what allowed the CBD, and you can ship. That's why you can ship CBD across the country as long as it had like the under 3% THC value in it.
Well, here's the thing. Yes, that is correct. And now the DEA has just come out with new recommendations to let states know that actually anything seeds, and it doesn't matter whether it's cannabis or hemp seeds or even cutlings, can cross state lines because they do not have THC in them. So
Okay.
The DEA had to redo their hopes. Yes, ropes and clothes and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's what they make them ropes they be throwing docked in boats with, man. Them ropes strong as hell.
Bruh, the Constitution written on hemp. You know what I'm saying? That's hemp paper.
Yeah.
Okay?
But why? But if it's been like if all of that other part of the plant doesn't have THC in it, and all those products have been like a good things, like like I've seen clothes and a few other things. Like what's been holding that back? If it's such a big like hit to the industry of it.
Because the problem with clothes that are made out of hemp, they last too long.
For a long time.
That's the
a
problem.
long time.
It's like clothes.
They used to make like the parachutes and all of that stuff
long time.
out of hemp.
That's
The ropes were out of hemp. And speaking to what he was talking about as far as the buildings, and when he said rebuild the hood, he didn't go into it. But that hempcrete is going to be a game changer.
Yes.
That thing's going to be a game changer to the point where we're going to add you in. Hempcrete is going to be a thing that it's going to be unbelievable because what call was that we were on when we had a call with Puerto Rico and Oregon and they was Leo and the other gentleman was talking about the hempcrete and the fact that it was stronger than conventional concrete.
Steel. It's stronger than steel. It's stronger than steel. It's antimicrobial and it's fireproof. That's the God's honest truth. That's like actual factual right there.
And to Charles's point of Charles, what's your favorite place on earth where you might end up moving to?
I think Colombia, man.
Colombia.
Oh,
we actually had a conversation about the possibility of possibly building that there using hempcrete. But the thing is, I want to say this as far like Mike asked a great question. The way it was described to me was like in the 30s and 40s, hemp almost just like weed. It was just like whatever, you know what I mean? But with the hemp in particular, to Leo's point, it outdoes so many different things that we already have. That's an industry changer. And those industries fight back. The lobbyists, the political thing, y'all know that stuff. That's your world. I don't really know how all of that works. But I do want to say this. Damn, I just went blank for a second. There's something really about him.
it's okay. See,
Man,
talking about me.
Man, that age, yeah.
Hey, I don't hit the, I don't hit the
One time, that was like, what the hell?
We have smoked enough doo-doo for everybody on the phone tonight. We good to go, man. But that's what I wanted to say. As far as the hemp and the farmers, the thing that really is upsetting about the games that are constantly played with Black people, Hispanic people, poor whites in particular, is a lot of the times the same places where we live is the same places that these industries are going to come into in order to be profitable. So with the Black farmers, about 4 years ago, Steve, and maybe a year after that, Leo, all of us was on the phone, but Steve told me then, he was like, listen, you're in North Carolina. He was like, yo, Kentucky and North Carolina, as far as your grounds, is fertile.
Yes.
Hemp and marijuana.
Yes.
And the war is about to happen. And like Leo said it's in its infancy. He told me 3 years ago, like, yo, I don't know what you're doing, but this is what you might want to consider. And he knew at the time back then, I wasn't as well versed with cannabis as I am now. But a lot of, again, I'd be picking Leo's brain and the other gentlemen that are in that field. So I've learned a lot. So my mind has expanded. But the one thing that with the hemp was one of those things where, in theory, we should have been able to, the four of us, go buy a plot of land, start growing that hemp. But I'm gonna tell you what they started doing as far as the games. They'll say, okay, you can set up in North Carolina and you can have one of your buildings that will actually cure.
Yep.
But what they'll do is they'll say, in order to build it, you can't move the parts to build what you need over the state lines. And that's where the federal games come in. And what they're doing is they're tying it all up so they can figure out how they're going to benefit before they allow it. They only give out 10. How many licenses did they give out for North Carolina, Leo? 10?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's only like 10.
Like
10? There are 10 licenses in the entire state, in the 99 counties in North Carolina.
And we got land everywhere out here. Like, you
one thing I want to say, even before we transition, like we mentioned before with Leo coming back on. I didn't know he was gonna come on today. I think we kind of need to reserve like a full conversation about the business side of this, like later, because people are always asking questions about this, like the business side of marijuana, hemp, etc. And I know Leo knows about this stuff. We don't, but there's a lot of questions about this whole area, and he's like the most informed on this. So we should like really just have a business conversation on this, and business informative, like, you know, with regards to weed and hemp, like what we should be doing.
That literally could be the title of the show: "The Business of Marijuana."
Yeah,
or the business of hemp or something.
And it could be the business and politics in a sense, because like, what do we need to? Because
they're synonymous.
Leo said this a long time ago. He says, "Yo, we need to." He said, "Nobody's doing this and this and this," and just the fact that you can say there's 10 licenses in the state or something like that. That's crazy.
And guess what, Mike? Guess how they do it? Let me tell you about a call I was on 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. And that's when I realized, like, oh, this is crazy. We were on a call with China. At the time, China was having a major issue getting licenses. Okay. They want to be here. But with this industry, to Leo's point, they are surgically just doing it the way they want to do it. And we're sort of being stalled out. So when you look at the black farmers, for instance, and I meant to send you all a link that I had earlier when the black farmers was talking about all of the money that went to all of the white farmers. But the reality was the black farmers was the first ones that was asking for this money because of the disparities. How is that transferring into what we see with medical marijuana, which is a whole nother discussion? Because just to get that's a whole nother discussion to what they did with hemp. They knew that a lot of the black farmers had been being starved out. So what was happening was these corporations were coming in and they say, let's just say Leo has a farm. Let's say Charles has a farm. Let's say Mike has a farm. They'll say, Mike, you know, what have you been yielding in X amount of time? You're like, man, you know, we're not doing nothing but 200,000 a year, 300,000. We had to sell off this. We're selling off that. We're parceling off the land. They said, well, listen, we'll give you $5 million right now for your land, sight unseen. You're going to jump on that. So you give them the land, not knowing that all they're going to do, they got another $5 million going into the lobbyists, and all they're doing is sitting quiet with a $10 million investment. But they know that per acre for that hemp in particular, I think Steve said for every $17,000 you invest within that first cycle and season of you know, growing it, preparing it, and getting it done, that $17,000 per acre is going to turn into roughly $75,000 to $90,000, depending on your yield.
Yeah.
You know, something in that. You know,
it depends on it. That depends on. So that is true, and the factors that go into that is how it was actually harvested. You know, the more. So he's actually right. It
his
just
company
depends on how
actually,
it was harvested.
You remember what his company? Stu got a company that actually takes the soil from anywhere in the warm climates where this stuff can grow, and they create these pellets to help the hemp to grow. So that's his company. That's his whole science and whole thing. But this is what was so crazy. If you look at all of the acreage they were buying and they're freezing it, it's almost like a gentrification in some ways. It's almost like we're gonna buy it. We will give Leo $2 million. We'll give you $1.5 million. We'll give him $5 million. They're waiting for the laws to be passed, but all they're gonna do is come in, and when that hemp thing hits where they can grow it, they're gonna make that money back tenfold.
But
and
it's not. Here's the thing, Devron. It's hitting the tactics that they're using are not exclusive to black farmers. They're doing it to farmers, period.
No, you know what? Whoa. Time out. That might be true. Okay, I get it. But those other white farmers weren't having the same issues as the black farmers. From Virginia to North Carolina, they were not having the same types of issues because remember what I said?
I'm only talking about in cannabis. I'm only talking about in cannabis and hemp.
But the thing is, it boils down to why some of the farmers went into cannabis or tried to and were trying to go into hemp. They knew that as far as the value of what hemp and marijuana is, apples and oranges and stuff, you're not going to make the same kind of money. This is a very serious money maker with land.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very serious money maker. But what I was saying is a lot of the black farmers were starved out of what they should have been able to have. And the things that were promised to them, they kept putting in litigation and they weren't given to them. So our thing is to all of the black farmers, if you have farmers that you're connected with, please tell them to hold out if they can, and please follow the laws. Please see what is actually happening, because that land that you have potentially could be a generational wealth game changer if you can hold on to it. We were dealing specifically with black farmers in the sense of how many of them were losing their farms, and then they were coming and buying their farms basically pennies on the dollars because they were hurting, or they would give them more money than they were making. And now you got whole families that have been doing this 100 years, 120 years, basically just walking away and losing out. And again, the joke is really on us. So when you're talking about the educational part of it, when you're talking about learning about these industries and all that other stuff, and you keep saying one thing, you said it on every call we've ever been in. This is the infancy. This is the infancy. This is the time. That's why I've been on those calls. How many times have I been a fly on the wall on the calls? Didn't say a damn word.
Yeah, our last call, you just sat back for an hour and just listened.
Yeah, but look at who was on the call. That was a powerful call. I mean, if I can learn, you know what I mean? I was just trying to learn because I want to put my children in a situation where they can reap the benefits of these new industries, learn about these different things, where this is probably the newest thing. I don't know.
No, you're right. Look, it's not generation. It's not just generational wealth, and for me personally, I sort of kind of move away from using that term because I think it gets overly used and abused at times, or improperly used. But what this really is generational revenue. In all of my business deals, from a legal standpoint, with all my legal paperwork, it is standard for me that the terminology direct line descendant and perpetuity is in every bit of my business dealings. And so that's
some of your business dealings. You got land trust in some of your business dealings.
Yeah, we just purchased 24 acres in Millville, New Jersey.
All generational wealth, my brother.
Yeah,
built on that generational revenue.
Huh?
That's generational wealth built on that generational revenue.
Right. It's one of the
mechanism.
Well, yeah, but it's sort of kind of like, when you talk about generational wealth can be wiped out easily. You know what I'm saying? Revenue is continuous. You see what I'm saying? And so
on the same page. We'll take that conversation offline.
That's another one.
You're going to need one to get to the other. In theory, if you're putting things together correctly, you should have these things working for you to fuel those economic aspects of your family, your land, and other stuff. I mean, that's a whole other discussion.
But you know what, though? Here's the thing, though, Devron. It's a discussion that all of us needs to be having, particularly when it comes to us doing business. And I think, terminology is very, very important. And you learn when you get to a certain point in life, be it career-wise and financially, you start using different terminology and things that you start looking at things in a completely different manner than what you did before. Because, when you're talking numbers and everything, this stuff is going to outlive us. I mean, look, the four of us are the only ones who will ever experience the end of prohibition on cannabis. We're the only ones that can do something. Our generation, our age, our people. You see what I'm saying?
But
so what's required of us is we have to think 4 or 5 generations down the road, so that there are mechanisms that
Leo.
are put in place so that if they don't make sense, then they
Right.
can make them make sense.
Well, with me, Leo, as far as, and I know you've never been on some of the Wednesday night business calls that Fuchsia has, Mike and a few other people have been a part of. I know Charles has been a part of it. For me, now I'm specifically with intent and deliberately aiming for generational wealth. And I do understand that there is these different definitions. What I'm saying is sometimes things are weaponized against us, especially when it comes to words and all this other stuff. But when we're looking at this money machine and this mechanism that has been set up that we're living through, we have to study it for what it is. And ultimately, they figured out quite a bit of codes that they're using, and they've been using for a very long time. Everything from how to use insurance to secure their money and how to use how to use land trust. All of that is a part of the generational wealth discussion. So I think I'm on your part, and I'll shut up because I know I'm getting on a tangent. I think sometimes when we think generational wealth, we think Jay-Z, $100, $200 million. And to your point, anything that you make, in theory, if it's not protected and if it's not cultivated, if there's not a plan for it, it can be wiped out. That's a fact. You know what I mean? That's a fact. But I told them about when I went to the Biltmore estate. You remember we was talking about that, Jen? And I said, yo, that one singular, when I went through those doors, that was the one time when I said, I get it. Like, I got it. It was like, oh, this is what generational wealth looks like from a money perspective. But the generational wealth that we're talking about, you know, y'all all know that, you know, I have very strong ties to the continent and traditional values. It's all tied in the same. The big game that's been played on us and the stuff that has been taken from us, and to your point about terminologies and everything, they're still doing the same things. They're still flipping up the laws. They're still using words. I mean, it's the same game. So we just have to be one step ahead. But that intent, now I'm pushing that into my children. I'm pushing that into the individuals that we study together. I'm pushing it into myself. I think it's a damn shame that I was in my 40s before I really understood what financial literacy was. I think that's a damn shame. Like, really understand. You hear the terms and you think you're doing little things, but really understanding and having a better understanding of how financial literacy works, that happened within the last 7 years of my life. And I think that's a damn shame, especially when other people are teaching their children from birth. And it's not only because they have the money. You'd be shocked how many people don't have the money and they're teaching them the same lessons because the intent is there, you know, to push. So, gentlemen, did we blow it tonight as far as talking about the guns? I mean, you know.
No, we got to segue. Mike P said we need to segue into the next thing. So
No, yeah. Save this for the next time. Okay.
So if we transition, and I guess we'll transition in and say, how does a cannabis cultivator feel about the legalization of gun?
Well, first and foremost, as before I'm a cultivator or anything, before I give my opinion or anything, remember, we the black guys in the movie.
Yeah.
So for me, as someone who's done multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan as both a soldier and a contractor, you know, and seeing the things that I'm seeing, you know, it's a matter of survival here. You see what I'm saying? Truth be told, I saw the video of the police officers in Uvalde, you know, where they sat in the hallway, you know, while those babies was being, you know, murdered by one little white boy, you know, and, you know, if you're, you know, as a protector of the realm, you know, someone who's taken an oath to protect this country from both foreign and domestic, you know, I think that, you know, having a firearm in every black home is a matter of a survival here. You know, I do not agree with, using hand sanitizer too. I do not agree with, you know, extending the responsibilities of a teacher as to carrying a firearm. You know, I think there's a better way we can do that. We can protect our schools. But truth be told, I think I really do think that, you know, for us, for our folks in this country, we need to be armed. Particularly the women. You know, evidence. I think as a country, we like to make people think we care about our women more than we really do. Because if you look at the way these laws are being written and thrown out, I mean, goddamn. But at the same time, this is America. So I do think that and mind you, do you guys remember when the thing in Buffalo happened, like
Yeah.
a month or two ago? That night, I actually went onto my Ring app, okay, and looked inside the chat, and I went back 2 weeks, and within a 2 week period, we had 11 shootings. I'm sorry, it was 11 shootings and 2 stabbings. And one of them was an 8-year-old little girl who caught one to the chest, Deborah. You know what I'm saying? Playing with her friends because these 2 dudes got mad about a Facebook post. And all of them happened within 0.4 to 0.6 miles away from my house. So this is going on all around me. You see what I'm saying? Police officers where I live at, police officers are confiscating armored piercing rounds, hollow tip point bullets, and assault rifles that they don't have them in their arsenals themselves.
Wow.
This is what's really like. This is going on. And so the whole PTSD and anxiety thing, it's ratcheted up as far as where I'm at because I'm living around it all the time. So this is it's a interesting time. And if you look at the way these Trumpanzees are acting and whatnot, Proud Boys and all this stuff, man. Yo.
Yo, you know what's crazy? I think about like everybody was worried about the gun rights and safety and protecting themselves and stuff like that. And as like we've all been stopped by police a number of times and stuff like that. And when my fear probably more so than running into like a violent situation is carrying a gun and running into a police officer situation. You know what I'm saying? Like how many times like I've been in enough, even myself, like from younger to whenever, like enough situations with police being stopped. Like what happens when I have a legal gun on me? You know what I mean? Like we've seen people with legal guns get shot. Just
you get killed.
Yeah, and I'm like,
I think you should have. I think we all should have one in our homes. Whether you conceal and carry, that's an individual choice. But you're absolutely right. But here's the thing: like I just said, I just saw that video of those. It was 125 cops out there at that school, Mike. 125 cops. They sat out there for an hour. So what I saw, so in my head, I'm saying, remember, I'm a black guy in the movie, okay? In my head, I'm saying, so there's a white dude, a little white boy, and the guy who killed him wasn't even on duty. He was a border patrol agent who got in and killed him. That's how it happened. You know what I'm saying? But and he wasn't even in uniform. You know what I'm saying? They don't tell you that. And the thing is that to me, I'm like, so wait a minute. Which is it? Do you fear for your life when you stopping me or when you come across me? Or is that the real fear? What happened to the whole Blue Lives Matter thing? Where do people, because all I saw was a bunch of like pussies. I'm sorry. Y'all was pussies. You know what I'm saying? So when the shit really going down, this is what y'all do? Oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? Because I know, like, wasn't the cop at the other school shooting outside too while the dude was doing his thing?
In Parkland, in Florida.
Yeah. Wasn't the cop outside with a gun?
Yeah.
So to me, you know what I'm saying? Like when they say they fear for their life and everything like that, it's like, okay, so what the fuck? Like, what are we doing here? You know what I'm saying? Who are these people? Like seriously, bruh. Those cops,
It's
like,
interesting.
right. You know what I'm saying? They all fear for their life. They fear for their life for that little white boy, and then they fear for their life every time they come across people who look like us.
Yeah. Yo, you know what I said? I said it's interesting that as many shootings that go on like in urban cities, big urban cities that was going on right now in New York City, I was like, with all of these guys with guns and all of this shooting going on in New York City, you never really see a story where a cop encounters a person who's actually armed and shooting,
Right.
and they engage him.
The movies,
It's
like in the
all,
movies, it's like
yeah,
there's no
yeah,
shootout.
yeah.
It's, it's
It's always the person they always seem to fear the most. To what you were saying, it's always the unarmed person. Yo, like look how many shootings are going on right now in New York City. I mean, yeah, I just read an article, man. 5 murders within a 4-hour period, and this and that, and all these shootings that we see are going on. Even though, ironically, they say it's actually down about 10% from this time last year, but it's still a lot because that number doesn't mean nothing. You know, like okay, so it's 90 of them instead of 100. That's still a lot. You know what I'm saying? But I always find it interesting that with all these shootings going on and the police and the people with the guns, there's never that, like you said, it never ends in this wild shootout. It never ends in the suspect really being gunned down. Sometimes it does happen, but because you know what it is when you have that, especially like now this I'm talking about with the police, when you are armed and capable of inflicting those 60 rounds on them,
different
excuse
story.
me, yo, they don't want no engagement.
It's
They
deep.
want they want that unarmed suspect that they don't really have to worry about so they could shoot him up.
Well, all right. So, in those instances, there are a lot of instances, but you got to realize, number one, when you look at these shootings of unarmed black men by police officers, you know what I'm saying? There's a couple of things afoot here. You know what I'm saying? One of them is look at the community in which that police officer actually lives in. 9 times out of 10, they don't even live in the community in which they're policing. So there's no emotional. They're not emotionally invested in the community. You see what I'm saying? They have no real ties. And the second thing is that these guys, these people, they're looking. Some of them are just looking for a trophy. They got to get them one. You see what I'm saying? I got me one under whatever circumstances. I mean, you saw the video of the way the cops did that youngin. They didn't know they was recording them. He was recording them, but the cops telling the youngin, "You don't do what we tell you to do. We're gonna plant this on you. Say you had it. Now what?" You know what I'm saying? They do that type of shit. It's a thing. You know what I'm saying?
But with all of that being said, right? We going back to like now with I read something interesting, right? When and to what you said about having a gun in their home, right? And I'm not against people having guns in their home for protection or whatever, right? I think everyone walking around with a concealed weapon, I think honestly makes the society more dangerous, not safer. But that's just my opinion. But yo, I read something interesting, right? After our last show. Yo, the federal government, I think it was called the Omnibus Something Act. Yo, they used to fund the CDC with a $2.6 million budget to study gun control and gun violence, and but from a legal perspective. And they had a report that they came out with, like how you talking about burying reports when you don't want like what it says. And they found that the average gun in the home was not actually used for protection. It was actually used in like situations where it was a domestic situation. You know what I'm saying? Not saying the average gun in the home was used in a domestic situation, but if a gun was used in a home, it was more likely to be used in like a suicide or like a killing of a spouse or a relative than it was to actually be able to like stop a home invasion, right?
Now that makes sense. I mean,
Yo, but now check this out though, right? But here's the interesting part. After that, and I think I forgot the congressman's name because they named the act after him. You know, the federal government withdrew the funding from the CDC and issued a law that prevented the federal government, Congress, from contributing any money to the CDC to study anything dealing with guns that would advocate for gun control. They did not even want the data about, and this is from the we all got the data from the illegal gun owners and everything, but the legal gun owners, they did not want any data that pointed to gun control or negative, that they literally wrote a law and they withdrew. You can look this up. They withdrew the funding from the CDC, that 2.6 million they used to give them. They withdrew the funding, and that lasted for 25 years. They just started it again. And they didn't want no funding. That they actually made a law in Congress. They could not fund anything where the results were that it dealt with advocating for gun control. So it's like, what information there did you not want? Or did you not want the public to see? Or, I mean, we know the NRA is powerful and everything, and of course they don't want nothing dealing with gun control. So, and I think that gun control versus taking the guns are often conflated. That number one, right? Gun control is not, to me, is not taking your guns. And the second thing is, I think that, and this is where I think the legal gun owners have to get more on board. So when a legal gun owner commits a crime with the gun, they tend to lump that as the criminal used the gun. But that's not like, but the possession of the gun. So no, what you don't have the criminal using the gun, the illegal gun. You have the criminal using the gun illegally. It's two different things. It's one thing you talking about. I bought a gun in the alleys of New York and then I used it in a robbery. That is not the same as I own the gun legally and then I commit a robbery, because now I'm in legal possession of a gun. I didn't criminally purchase a gun, but I have now used it criminally. And I think that when that happens, and this is where I say, like, I don't feel like they should take the guns, but this is where I say I think legal gun owners have to stop and stop that narrative, because every time a legal gun owner uses his gun illegally, they lump that with, that's the criminals using the gun. No, that's a legal gun owner using his weapon illegally. This is not the same as the dude in New York City that bought it in the back alley of the building and did it. This dude got it purchased legally. Like we're like, and you look in states like Georgia, like the North Carolinas, the Virginias, the Texas, a lot of them southern states, a lot of these crimes, I believe, and I don't think they will let the data show that, a lot of these crimes are being committed by people, even I'm talking about the street murders and robberies, that people got these guns legally. And I was looking up like, for instance, I was looking up the laws in Georgia. You don't even have to register your gun unless you want a concealed carry permit. So here's the interesting thing. Like, now let me take, so you bought a gun, Leo, from a dealer, a licensed dealer. He did a background check. He gives you your gun. As a private seller in the state of Georgia, you could sell me that gun. And you don't have to do a background check on me because you're not a dealer, nor do I have to register that gun if I only want to keep it in my home or whatever. I only have to register it if I want to conceal carry it. You see what I'm saying? So you can have a bunch of felons or non-felons with guns all over the place. As long as they don't want to conceal carry it legally, they don't even have to register that gun. So now when I bought that gun legally and I'm out here in College Park shooting up fucking Atlanta,
wait, they
that's
can
a
open carry,
that
Charles? They can open carry? They can open carry without registering?
no without
No,
you
only at home.
you can't. Yeah, you can buy the gun legally from a private seller. So you can sell me a gun in Georgia.
No, I heard you on that point, but you mentioned concealed carry.
No, you can't carry it. You can't carry it in public without registering it. You have, because you need the permit to do that, right? But what I'm saying is that, but that's where I'm saying you got. So, but what I'm saying that to say is The gun itself was legally purchased. So right now, as long as I don't have a concealed carry in the Walmart, say, and I just got 30,000 guns sitting in my house, I am considered a legal gun owner.
Right.
As long as I don't conceal carry it, because that's where I'm violating the law. So all of those guns sitting in my house, as long as I say I am not going to walk around in public with it in Georgia, say I don't even have to register them. They don't even know where the guns are, kid. So then, if then me and you, I'm like, yo, here go a gun, Mike. Me and you, we going over to holler at Leo about this cannabis thing, and it ends in a shootout. That is a legal gun that I have just used criminally. You see what I'm saying? Which is different than, so they try to tie that into as if I got the gun illegally and I was just a criminal. They try to make those one and the same narratives, and I think that those narratives are distinct.
If you make the distinction between a legal gun and an illegal gun, the numbers would be completely different. If people concentrated on that, basically a gun that's only meant for as a tool for the house, you know what I'm saying, that versus a gun that was supposed to be only at the house, and I took it off the property and used it.
Exactly.
Then without registering it, I fucked up. You know.
Yeah.
The thing is,
but see that's that though. So now when I commit that robbery, that doesn't go with the legal gun owner that used the gun criminally. That goes with the criminal. And see, it makes it seem like that all of this is happening just by illegally obtained gun criminals, when a lot of this stuff is also part of being these illegal gun owners who are now using their guns in a criminal act. No more than when you look at these mass shootings, these are legal gun owners using their guns criminally. They're not illegally obtaining the gun, and that's where they conflate it to make the numbers point in one direction as a way of saying, yo, it ain't us, it's the criminals with the guns. But yo, you're a legal gun owner. You see what I'm saying? And you just used your gun criminally. That's what happened in Buffalo. That's what happened in all of these shootings. That's what's happened. That's what just happened the 4th of July. This dude had a legal gun. These are legal guns being used criminally, and that, I believe, especially in them southern states that have lax gun laws, that's a big part of the numbers that they're pushing to the other side, because they don't want anything that deals with gun control.
Well, I did an interview, a one-on-one fireside chat with Gary Chambers. It's the guy that's running for senator in Louisiana.
Yeah. I like him. I follow him on Instagram. Yeah, I follow him.
Yeah,
I like him.
He's a good dude. He's a real cool dude. But one of the things that he explained to me about what the gun and talking about gun control and the way as he sees it and everything, he said there's a chain of sporting goods stores that are only known in the South. Like we don't, I forget the name of it, but we don't have them here, huh?
Academy and those types of places and stuff.
Yeah, but what he told me is that out where he's from in Louisiana, it's a known thing. It's a regular known thing that ammo is delivered at these sporting goods stores, and is delivered on a Tuesday, and by Thursday they're out of ammo
every time.
And he said, you know, what you got to understand is he was like, it's the white boys that's out there that's mostly buying this stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's mostly buying is ammo. You know what I'm saying? So in their minds, the way they talk about it down where he's from, he's like, look, they loading up. You know what I'm saying? They've been loading up for years.
Years.
You know what I'm saying? And this whole thing when it comes to guns, and gun control, okay, we late. It's too many guns out there to try to start doing control now. Because if you start limiting the ability for people to legally purchase a firearm and legally and have it, whether it be on their person or just as a tool for their home, if you restrict those people from getting it, it's so many guns out there. If you really want, like the criminals will already, because they're the ones that's going to use it anyway. They're going. It doesn't matter whether it's legal or not. They're still going to get it. It's that many guns. You know what I'm saying? So there's no like. At this point, it's too late. The only thing you could do is maybe minimize the amount of people who actually can purchase a legal gun. But if they can't get it legally, they'll still get it illegal. If somebody wants a gun, they can really get a gun. You know what I'm saying? It's really.
I mean,
not
there's
that
more
hard.
guns in America than there are people.
Absolutely, many times over too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And the other thing too is that realize this country, you know, we can say, you know, there's a lot of things you can say, but here's the thing: this country in its entire existence has only known something like 12 years of peace.
Yeah.
We've been at war for less. We've been at war for whatever the age of this country is right now. 12 years of that, it was only peace. We've been
Yeah,
at
you think
war.
about it, it's crazy. It's crazy. That's true.
So the thing about it is that, you know, and you know, like I said, you know, you have the greatest military in the history of the planet. You know what I'm saying? That's a fact. You know what I'm saying? You know, and so this thing. So when we talk about culture, you know what I'm saying? That is, you know, guns and all that stuff is just as American
American
as
culture.
apple pie.
It's
You know what I'm saying?
American culture.
Just like racism and everything
American culture.
is just as American as apple pie. I mean, it's what this country does. You know what I'm saying? Like, seriously, and there's history books. There's a reason why they don't want us studying critical race theory and stuff like that. I mean, look, let's keep it all the way a buck. You know, like I look at the whole thing with Brittany Griner, right? You know what I'm saying? In Russia, you know, and I see how people say, oh, if it was LeBron, they've been had this and da 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 da. Okay, let me help you out here. All right. This ain't that argument. You know what I'm saying? What Brittany Griner's in, what she's into, you know what I'm saying? If there's no GoFundMe amount that you could raise to get her out. The NBA and the WNBA don't know enough people to maybe get her out. And here's why. Number one, that shit is illegal in Russia. And number two, you pulling that shit in a country that don't like us, that's at war. They're currently at war. So now, you know what Brittany Griner gets to be? Brittany Griner gets to be a propaganda tool so that people like us, you know what I'm saying, black people and everything, could be mad at the government. You see what I'm saying? And we're not understanding that, you know, like, yo, she fell into a completely different realm. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to do, here's how deep it is. If we were to do a prisoner swap for, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, there are way more people who are higher on the priority list of a prisoner swap that we would do with Russia before we ask for Brittany Griner.
That's a fact.
This is war.
Yo, but they honestly think that's how that so they were saying, like, I was reading this thing that I mean, first of all, she got caught with the shit in her bag. You know what I'm saying? That's the bottom line. Whether how hard Russia wanted to punish it or not, it is what it is. But she got caught with the shit, right?
Yeah, so her people failed her.
Yeah, so she definitely got caught with it in her bag, right?
Yep.
Do you want to elevate it to a trafficking charge? Maybe like how Russia tried to, you know, Russia act like, you know, she was smuggling hash into the country for like she was like, you know, creating an international drug route. But so that kind of sounded crazy. But the bottom line is she got caught with it in her drag. Yeah, but she got caught with it.
For us.
Yeah. But now, though, they were saying that because she ended up pleading guilty recently to the charge. And they said that basically that was a foregone conclusion. Like she was getting found guilty. But you can understand that even in America, I mean, you got caught with it. But the thing is, they were saying that she was
a little different. They said it's like 99% of the people are getting convicted of anything that even comes before.
Yo, listen, man, America can put that in the media all you want, man. They the same way. Everybody that walked through that federal courtroom coming out there with a guilty verdict, unless
Well, right, you're
Look,
right, you're right, because of the amount of how much percentage of people are plea bargain, right? So you
Right,
always
right.
yo, when you talk about, and then yo, the only people, I
it's
mean,
basically the same,
basically, yeah, or they getting them 5K1 letters. If anybody's familiar
Right.
with that substantial assistance to the government. You know, I mean, yeah, you know, like one thing, the American government will let you get away with drug dealing and killing if you're willing to tell on if you're willing to tell on your neighborhood and a bunch of other people, they have no problem with letting you go for that type of behavior. They've done it in the
Right.
past to a lot of people,
Right.
Yes.
Right.
but
That's true.
you're going to give everyone up that they want. You know what I'm saying? And then they
Right.
give you the 5K1 substantial assistance to the government and the prosecution of others. Once you get that in your thing, man, the judge, it basically removes that sentencing guidelines, man. The judge sentences you to whatever you want, which is why dudes like Sammy the Bull gets 5 years in prison for like 19, 20 murders. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
Nino
So
Brown. That's how
yeah,
Nino got away. You know, or almost got away.
yeah,
But
yeah, with that. But they said that Russia is going to try, that they believe that's exactly what they're going to try to do. Now we got her, she's guilty, and now they're going to use her as a pawn for a prisoner swap. But the person that I read, they was talking about, like, yo, you want like a killer in
Oh, yeah.
exchange for like a WNBA player. You know what I'm saying? So
my man, my boy was like, yo, tell Brittany Griner, you know, don't do that time like a man.
yeah. Yo, cause I forgot who they said. I forgot the dude name, but the dude who they were saying that Russia, I guess. So you know the rumblings must be out there who they wanted the prisoner swap with. It was like, yo, it was crazy. It was like, yo, you giving back a WNBA player that got caught with some bullshit hash, and you want us to turn over like an assassin. You know
Yeah,
what
and
I'm saying?
but that's the crazy part. That's why I said this is a whole different. This is not about black and white, male or female. Nah, this is war. You know what I'm saying? This is just a whole nother category. They're not going to send SEAL Team 6 in there to go get her. They ain't doing
Yeah,
that. You know what I'm saying? This ain't that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And you talking about Vladimir Putin. And mind you, Russia's pissed with us right now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's not like we ain't over here openly talking about helping the Ukraine and shit. You know what I'm saying? And that's after DT did his
Yo,
thing,
you
trying to
seeing the
help.
world alliances realign themselves, man.
Oh yeah,
Word. Yo,
yeah,
because you get in Russia, China, you get in Brazil on their side. And you know, Brazil, one of the biggest countries down there in South America. You got they talking about Iran is supplying Russia with drones to go in there and start putting in that work in Ukraine. Yo, the world powers is like realigning, kid. It's getting ready to be
yo,
crazy.
they just let who was it, Sweden, somebody into NATO like a week
Yeah,
ago.
Yeah. I think
yeah,
it was two countries.
Finland,
Finland, I think. It was two
yeah,
countries.
they
yeah,
just let Finland into, you know, and Russia was pissed about that.
Yeah.
yeah.
You know what I'm
Anything
saying?
Yeah,
bordering on the
because
coast.
yo, you know what though?
Bordering on the coast.
When I was looking at that on the map, yo, first of all, them countries want every bit of being part of NATO now because once he gets the Ukraine,
He's going
and
up.
you got Belarus like right there above the Ukraine. Belarus is like in cahoots with Russia, and you got the Ukraine and everything after that. But once they cross and get to their western border, they knocking on the door of Europe, man. They knocking on the door of Finland and all of them places, man. If them countries sitting out there lone ducks, not protected by NATO, of course they want to be a part of NATO right now, man, because they gonna need that help because that yo after the Ukraine, you look at the western Ukraine border and you got Belarus to the north and everything. They that all of that, man. Yo, if they take those countries, well, Belarus is like I said, they ally. If they take those countries and work all the way across their countries, they are knocking on the door of those Scandinavian countries, man. up there in them countries is sitting up there like lame ducks, man.
Y'all getting into the deep
So listen,
economic.
Fellas, I apologize.
We've been trying to close it out.
It's been good. It's good. It's been good.
And here's the deal.
You'll extend the border of Russia all the way to Europe.
Yes, you can.
Yes.
All the way, you'll extend the border. If they take all of that, kid, that Russian border will extend all the way into the border of Europe with those countries, with Finland, the Swedens. You will be right there sitting to the north. Your border will extend all the way into Europe, and you'll be sitting right to the north of the Germanys, the Italys, the Portugals. You'll be right on top of them. Right on top of them, man.
Fellas,
I apologize for hijacking your show.
No, we good to go, bro. We good. You didn't hijack anything. Thanks for coming and as always and contributing, all that great information and helping to increase the value of Real Talk Live, because that's all this is about. And tonight, me and Charles even have an argument. I almost feel bad.
You say y'all had what?
We ain't have an argument tonight, man. Damn, I was arguing with him, man. I feel like I'm arguing a little bit better, man. I couldn't even find nothing to argue with him about. Like I let us down tonight.
You know what though? Before we go, I do have a question. What's the plan for homecoming? Is there a homecoming this year? With like,
oh God, yeah.
What's the talk?
Homecoming. For me, I could talk to you about that. Yo, if we can get Charles and Mike down in homecoming, oh my gosh, that would.
When is homecoming?
October. It's sometime in October.
Really?
I tell Charles, Charles ain't nothing but a.
I know Charles ain't nothing. Yeah, it's getting Mike to come with Charles.
Take his person.
Because if we give him the date, Charles like, I was already coming down there to see.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was actually going to go to Hawaii right after that, but I'll move the Hawaii trip to here, and maybe I'll go to Brazil. He'd be out. The dude is just out, man. It's like, it's really amazing.
What is Tempest talking about right here? What is Tempest talking about right here?
Let me see if I can fit in.
No. Tonight's topics actually we were 100% on topic. Guns and the cannabis wasn't on the plan, but it happened, and Leo just happened to be in the goulash, as they say in Clubhouse.
Hey, you know what, man? No, it's not like for me. I was super excited because I realize what I must do, in order to really be impactful, particularly for St. Aug, and there's so many more things that are currently in the works. It's like even just now finding out homecoming in October. Huh?
Just trip down before homecoming, and we can go over, sit down with some of the peoples and. Just let them see you, let them meet you, man. The conversations are constant, and everything is happening.
I would love to talk to you more about that cannabis, and I'm gonna tell you right now, I agree with you 100% that shit is medicinal, kid. It makes a difference. It's like a wonder plant, But and the focus, and it was funny, like real quick when you was talking about the musicians. Because I think I even told y'all this before. I remember one time.
Charles Bacon. I'm closing this out.
I remember sitting in the car one time, and I think I told y'all this, Mike and Dev. I don't know if I said it on the show, but I know we was talking about it.
You're talking ducks.
And we was I was listening to that Levert song, right? It was the Levert song. It was like that pop goes my mind. I ain't the best singer, but you know what I'm saying. Hey, and I was sitting in the car. And I was feeling, I smoked out. I was smoked. Hey, son, I heard, and Dev, you a music dude, so you should know.
Stupid, man.
I heard, listen, inside when I'm listening to the music, now I ain't heard that song 100 times, but when I was smoking, listening to it, I heard the motherfucking tambourine going. And I said to myself, oh shit. No bullshit. I said to myself, oh shit, I never heard that there was a tambourine in the beat before, right? And I said that, and I remember this clear as day. I said to myself, this is what great musicians must be able to hear naturally, kid. Like the different sounds that come together to make the beat. because we normally just hear like the strong bass line. You don't hear all the time the piano or the guitar or the different instruments that's behind what composers making that beat. And it was bugged out to me because I kept hearing that little tsh, tsh, and I was like, yo, I felt if I wasn't smoking, I would have never heard that sound. And it was clear as day to me.
I've had the opportunity to hear Devron talk about music before, like just what it like talk about a particular beat. I think he found an old CD or old tape that has some old music that he did from way back when. The way he talked about the music and how it all came together and the way music works for him, he reminds me of a lot of the professional football players that I know. When they watch a football game, they don't see it the same way I do. They see film. You know what I'm saying? So my friends who are offensive linemen or wide receivers are looking at foot positioning, hand movement. That's what they see. When people like Devron, musicians and stuff like that, when they listen to music, it's an entirely different experience for them because this music is a part of their being. We have air and like we need air to breathe in order to live. They need music in order at some point or another. It's how they some people like Devron, musicians, music is what grounds them to the earth in a way like chakras and auras and all that stuff. It's just different for them. So you're absolutely right. Devron, people like Devron, them pick apart beats.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this really quick, and I'm gonna close this out because we're on that 2-hour mark. And first off, I wanted to say thank you, Leo, for joining us. And every time you come, man, you definitely, you bring it. You know what I'm saying? But we might have to get you back. I mean, I don't know if you're flying out next week, but we got to have this. We have to have a more in-depth gun talk because there's a lot of things that we need to cover. Mike pointed that out to us. That we really do need to, because it's just a heavier conversation. Lastly, what I want to say to Charles is, as many studios as I've been in over the last 40 years, there are a lot of people who do smoke and they do get inspired or they get so relaxed that they're able to, by their descriptions, they're able to hear things that, some things become more dominant. And when you look at a clock, remember the old school clocks from like 1 to 12? Remember 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? When we're multi-track recording, track 1 might be just a set of drums. Track 2 might be a hand clap. Track 3 might be a vocal. Track 4 might be a bass. Track 5 might be a synth. But what I'm saying to you is when we mix the records, we might make our drums, we might put that as a 9. It might be an 8, something where it has a little bit more thump. We might take that same cymbal and put it at a 4, meaning we turn it down to a 4. But then when we start panning it, which means that now we might put the drum, a cymbal, just a little bit over here to the right. So that right ear might hear it a little bit different than the left. That's how you mix music. So when people are getting high, or if they're drinking, or even if they're upset, or if they're calm, they're going to interpret it and they're going to hear things and they're going to vibe different. You know what I mean? So I've never had the discussion and never had really an opinion about when people are high or not high. I just didn't want them smoking around my gear. So I'm like, when you're in the studio, go to your car, whatever. And a lot of studios you can go to and smoke. And I was in a lot of studios where people were smoking. I just couldn't take it after damn time. I just walked out. But that's probably what you was experiencing. Whatever happened, once those chemicals started moving around in your brain, certain instruments either became more dominant or you related more to those instruments in a way that you probably haven't related to before. I just wanted to say that.
Like, I was able to even hear them. I couldn't even consciously remember even able to hear that sound before. Right. Because like you said, because I'm listening to the overall beat, so you tend to gonna listen to whatever takes dominant, which is normally the drum line of it. Right. But like you said, but the little cymbal or the little tambourine or even like a little toot on a flute horn or something, you don't really pick that up. You tend to just incorporate it as part of one sound.
You think of
But
it as
what-
one car,
yeah.
and not all the
Exactly.
components working inside.
But I was able to start like breaking down, like, and to his point, this is what like people like you do naturally,
Yeah.
you know, because you don't even get high. Is like I was able to hear the beat
right,
not as a whole, but as individual instruments
Right.
playing.
which
you
is
know
a
what I'm
beautiful
saying?
experience.
Yeah.
That's
Yo,
just-
it was
But
like,
that's how his brain works. He just broke it up into 8 tracks, and somehow or another,
50 to 100
brain-
tracks. You can see
yeah,
it.
well, 4 or
But,
5 tracks,
you know,
and then his brain
yeah.
somehow or another combines them in a way that is good to his ear. The
Well-
art of it all is, you know, where the appreciation beyond his ear comes into play. That's where the payoff is for people like him.
my
If
guy,
he can appreciate it.
I want to say this, Leo. Thanks. You know, earlier we had Kristen up here. We had Chris. I just want to shout out really quickly some of the people that were here. Tracy was with us. I don't want to miss nobody. Tempest, Sheena.
Leon, Steve, Christina.
Yeah, John Champion was hanging out with us. Perry was hanging out with us. Just really quick, Steven.
Yeah.
He's definitely one of our co-hosts. Perry is also, now that I think of it. Christina, Dion. Did I say Tracy? I might have said Tracy. Tracy's another. She's just
Yeah,
fabulous.
she's the co-host.
They are with us, you know. And if I missed you, forgive us. Oh, Naja, and I'm about to take us out of here. So, you know, great show. Next week we'll probably continue the conversation and add some other things, and that's where we at.
Hey, Dad, make sure Mike and Charles get my number. Y'all can call me whenever y'all want to. man.
Send the group text out.
Yeah, listen, man. I like that whole cannabis idea, man. Yeah, look,
Look at just bring a smile to Charles's face.
Yeah, all
that joint is a beautiful thing.
I'll make sure I have some on deck. If I'm in the country,
Yo, you know what? But the fun, see, my thing is crazy with it, man, because like I said, I take
Y'all
urine
got
tests.
40 seconds.
Yeah, he
No.
go ahead, quick.
40 seconds. I'm hitting it.
So look, real
Joe.
quick, we just purchased 24 acres. We'll have 185,000 square feet indoor, 10 acres outdoor here in New Jersey. You know, then of course, like I said, we got operations in Massachusetts and Michigan.
Where's
So,
this, Leo? This is in 24 acres. This is in Jersey.
yes.
He's right next door to y'all. Y'all
Oh,
can
and you got operations in Michigan too. So yeah, that's cool, man. We'll talk though, definitely.
Yeah, get at me, man. Like Mike, get at me. Charles, get at me. You know what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Get out and talk it out.
respect, gentlemen. We about to hear some of my good old music I made for us.
Oh,
There
okay.
you go, brother.
With the 4
Oh, yeah.
tracks that he put together.
This
in
was
his-
actually about 28.
All right, get it down because these brothers are talking.
Yeah.